Ignite Your Power, the Kathy Mao podcast. Today, I'm so excited and honored to have Dr. David Lipman with me today. And Dr. David Lipman is the owner of Physical Evidence Chiropractic and a seasoned chiropractic physician who has successfully treated thousands of patients. With a deep personal commitment to biooptimization, Dr. Lipman has achieved extraordinary levels of strength, endurance, and overall health well into his 60s. He looks great, guys. And his mission is to share the knowledge and processes that have profoundly benefited his own life, helping others to achieve optimal health and wellness. So, hi, David.
Hey, Kathy. Nice to see you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for having me here today.
Thank you so much for being here and reaching out to be on this podcast. I really believe that whatever you're teaching right now and what we're going to discuss is really going to help a lot of people out there. And I love sharing all these knowledge and different ways to teach people what they can do holistically to help with their health. Because who knows, maybe my one protocol works, but then it might not work for somebody else. So you sharing your knowledge and amazingness today, I'm just so honored. So thank you for that.
Yes,
And
sure.
so today I wanted to tap into how you just even got into being a chiropractor and what inspired you.
Yeah, that there was definitely inspiration. And I think if I really track back, when I was 10 years old, I started to work out and I was motivated by just a challenging environment that I was living in. And on top of that, there was a kid next door, a couple of years older, whose father was into martial arts. And he inspired me to get strong, to work out and be strong, and to the nutritional part of a healthy body. So I got off of Captain Crunch and Wonder Bread and started eating real food. And so that value system that he instilled on me at 10, started to grow from that point. And that became part of my personal, health journey lifestyle. When I was 15, I had a motorcycle injury and I had broken my neck in two places. I hid the injury because I was more afraid of my dad and getting in trouble because I wasn't supposed to be on a motorcycle when I was 15. But by the time I was about 18, 19, I was really starting to have some issues. And I met a chiropractic student. He invited me into the clinic. He took x-rays. He gave me my first adjustment. And the pain that I had been noticing and feeling for, a number of years at that point, was gone. And it just was a transformative moment for me because I was being groomed to be in the family business, plumbing manufacturing. We had a very successful family business that went back from the 1930s. But this experience just changed my whole way of thinking and direction. And I was just so amazed at how this guy with his hands and this adjustment just took my pain away. And it just, like I said, it transformed my whole life direction. And fortunately, my dad was very supportive of that change. And so I just, started dedicating myself to that practice of, helping and healing people since, the 1980s. So that's sort of how that all came about. Each piece to my life's puzzle, from, working out, getting strong, eating healthy, breaking my neck, having an injury, and then by the ease of which that was corrected, that just kind of shot me into a whole new direction in life.
That's amazing. I love that. There's always something like turmoil or some life-changing event that always wants to make people do a huge shift in their lives. And hopefully a lot of listeners here don't have to wait for something huge in their or catastrophic in their life to actually start getting healthy and loving themselves. Because mine was my journey through infertility, where I really had to learn to love myself and take care of myself. And so that was a whole nother thing. So it's wild how you do get an injury, most of us, and then we start our journey. So that's amazing that you kept it on though since 15. That's so wild.
Well,
So
since 10,
or
really.
yeah, since
Yeah,
10.
10.
But your 15 was when your injury. So like what's your daily routine look like in general right now? Like what have you been doing? Have you been doing the same things since you were a kid, or like you learn new things and then you always switch it up? But then I know you're active every day, or like, certain foundations that you really, really practice every day.
Yeah, sort of everything you just said. First of all, the eating part, the nutrition and the attention nutrition has been with me since then. And obviously I've learned a lot more since I was 10 years old. And as more information's come out into the public, I've, embraced that information, figured out how it fits into my life. and then the things that I think are applicable, I'll share with other people. The exercise itself, it's transitioned and gone through many different stages. The overall goal for me all the time is to continually to stress my body so it adapts and gets stronger. When I was younger, I remember being a teenager and I'd been working out for about 6, 7 years, and I was pretty in good. It was in good shape. Nobody really worked out then. We played sports in the street. That's how I grew up. But my dad and his friends were probably in their 40s at the time, and they'd say, "Oh, I used to look like you when I was your age, but after 40, it's all downhill." I didn't want to buy into that then, and I certainly don't buy into it now. So that was part of my motivation to say, okay, do I really have to be downhill after 40? Or if I continue to stress my body and get strong, can I do that as a lifelong pursuit? Now, I know now the answer is yes. And so I've done that. And again, the workout itself is taking different forms. But as an example, anytime I would go on vacation or be away from home, the first thing I would do is open up the yellow pages back in the day and look up health clubs. And health clubs were, always there a section in the yellow pages. So I would always make sure that I was working out first thing in the morning, because that's how I started out, wherever I was. And if there was no opportunities, I would make opportunities, push-ups. I've done pull-ups on door frames and things like that, just to keep it a part of, my routine. I do well with my own structure of my life. So let me just fast forward a little. Like, what does today look like? Today, I woke up at about 3:45, came to my office at 4 a.m. and started the superhuman protocol. I did the full superhuman protocol, and then I went to the gym and did my workout. Now, my workout is very systematic, but there's one thing that's always part of it, and that's functional training. Things that are going to help me be functionally strong in my everyday life. Now, as a chiropractor, I'm one of the ones that are very hands-on. So I'm picking people up off my table, all day long, and I'm maneuvering them. So I'm 5'10", 190, but I got some patients that are like 6'5", 290. And so I have to be able to do that effectively to help them and not hurt myself in the process. So my whole outlook on strength and being strong, whereas it used to be defend myself when I was younger, that was my motivation. Now it's to be able to physically function in a way that is not going to hurt me and can be, effective for the people I'm, treating. So that's always that mainstay. But I have done testing on myself to see what my genetics are in terms of what nutrition I need and how my body processes nutrients. I've looked at my gut health. I do NAD. I do so many things on a regular basis proactively to invest in my health. Health has to be an investment. And so, I've done these things on for years and on a regular basis just to keep up and to, have the belief that you don't have to decline as you go older. You can actually incline as you go older. That's what I'm dedicated to, not managing the decline of my life, but investing in the incline of my life.
I love that. I love that. You're a true inspiration and a true role model of how you don't have to decline, you can incline even when you get older. And people get scared of getting older. It's like, no, it's beautiful. You get to be wise, you get to learn and keep growing and seeing the world through a different lens. So thank you for sharing that. And so you mentioned something earlier. You said you started, like, when you wake up, you did the superhuman protocol. So let's talk about that. I'm so interested in this.
Yeah, it's a favorite subject of mine. I'll just give you a quick synopsis of how I got to it.
Okay.
I had been using class 4 deep tissue laser as a modality for soft tissue injuries here in the office since about 2012. And I had never seen a modality that really sped up healing at the cellular level the way that deep tissue laser does. So I happen to be one of only a handful, if that many, practitioners that invested and got this technology. So it really helped me set myself apart, because when I came to South Florida, I had to start over. I left my practices behind up north, and starting from scratch. So I really found that this particular modality helped set me apart, and I was able to start building my practice just by how quickly I can have people heal up and be out of pain. So red light therapy is based on that same, what they call photobiomodulation, the way our cells absorb light and how that optimizes energy production at the cell level, so that cell can regenerate and be healthier and get new healthy cell tissue very rapidly. So for years, I was using that technology, and people would say, "Oh God, this feels so good. I wish I could have it for my whole body." And I would tell the sales guy that, because I ended up upgrading to another unit a few years after the first one, and then another one. And finally, in about 2018, I had said that because somebody had just said that again. He says, well, guess what? We're actually going to do that now. We have this full red light and multi-infrared wavelength bed coming out. And I was like, I want the first one. He says, we have 27 in the first, shipment. I'll give you, you'll get one of them. So I got that. So we started using red light therapy and infrared as a full body treatment of what's called photobiomodulation, as I had said before, which again optimizes energy production at the cell. So what that does is it gets every tissue in our body and every system to be functioning in a high level. Most people that are losing their health are losing it because there's a reduction of energy production at the cell level. So out of the 32,000 diseases we've identified in humans, the one common denominator in every single one of them is the loss of energy production at the cell level. So when you think about it in those terms, you realize that there's really only one issue in us humans, and that's losing metabolic energy for cell, at the cell level. So if you can address that, all those other things are going to kind of disappear because the basis of that is losing energy. So if you rev that energy up. So anyway, you get the point. So this is a red light bed that I had for a couple of years. And then about 2 years into it, somebody that's a friend that's into biohacking sent me this podcast. It was called the Superhuman Protocol. And I'm like, superhuman? Like, yeah, I want to be superhuman because Superman was like he was my guy when I was 5 years old. I still got a picture of me with the uniform on. But I listened to this, and what I heard was there's a 3-step process. The first step is a pulsed electromagnetic field. Pulsed electromagnetic field is what optimizes the polarity or plus and minus charges in our bodies. See, all of our physiology really functions because of the exchange of charges, plus and minus. Our nervous system is electromagnetic, our muscular system, the way we absorb nutrients from our bloodstreams into our cells through the membrane and remove waste products from cell metabolism back into the bloodstream to be excreted. And it's also the way our red blood cells carry oxygen from our lungs to all of our tissues. So we are essentially electromagnetic beings, but we don't have our own battery. The earth has been our battery for centuries, but in modern days, we've paved over the earth. We walk on concrete. We wear rubber soles, our sneakers and our shoes. So we're not getting that pulse of the earth unless you're walking barefoot on the beach or on the grass or on the dirt, a half hour a day. But even on top of that, what makes it even worse is that all this electricity around us and wireless and Bluetooth, our devices and 5G, they are causing these high frequency electromagnetic fields that are interrupting our normal functioning, where our cells are doing all that communicating and physiological work. So we have disruptions. So many of us have that, and it impairs our ability to make energy at the cell level, as well as carry oxygen. So pulsed electromagnetic fields, step 1 for the superhuman protocol, optimizes the polarity of the body. When it comes to the red blood cells, it optimizes their ability to carry oxygen. So step 2 is exercise with oxygen therapy. So our atmosphere has about 20% oxygen concentration. In this protocol, exercise with oxygen therapy, you are breathing in about 98% oxygen purity while you're exercising. So instead of the 20% that we'd normally be breathing in, we have a big cylinder that has 900 liters of 98% oxygen purity. So we use a Bowflex stepper, so it's an upper and lower body thing. So the idea is to do exercise and do some sprints. So when you sprint, you're creating an increased need of oxygen getting into your body. You actually increase the pressure of it in the lungs going into your blood vessels and carried by your red blood cells. And so you're now saturating your tissues with like such a high concentration of oxygen, more than anybody's walking around getting. And then with all that oxygen in your tissue, you then go into the red light bed, and red light drives that oxygen into the cell, displacing any free radicals that might be causing damage in the cell and preventing oxygen from getting in, gets that oxygen in the cell, and that cell is going to be optimally making energy, which again is the end goal. The whole thing about the superhuman protocol is getting us from like a 2 horsepower cell to a 34 horsepower cell. It's not actually horsepower, but it's energy cycles, but it's really 16 times more energy production at the cell doing the superhuman protocol. So that's what makes you superhuman. And again, it's not anything we're not capable of, but nobody's walking around like this naturally.
Wow, that's so amazing. So how many sessions do people need to actually like start feeling or seeing results after doing one like superhuman protocol or one session, I guess?
Yeah, so one session is all that's needed because regardless of like if somebody's at a great deficit from a health standpoint, energy standpoint, they don't sleep well, depression, insomnia, I mean, all these different symptoms, pain, one session is going to take them to such a higher level of cellular energy production that's going to be impactful. Somebody that works out and is more on the healthy side of life, they're going to see an immediate change in their performance in the gym, or let's say on the pickleball court, because that's very popular down here. We have some UFC fighters that are doing it because the way they recover from a 3-minute round is so much faster than normally. And that was one of the first things I noticed. I had long haul COVID symptoms. I was getting out of breath, like walking to the top of my steps. And, that was not me. But once I started doing the protocol, not only was that gone, but I was back to like the endurance I was probably in my 20s. And,
Wow.
a lot of people are finding that. So one session is really all you need to see a difference depending on, where that might show up in your life. Again, performance or just overall health, better sleep, energy lack, brain fog gone. So that's really what it takes, just that single one to do it. And a lot of people will try it once, and then most of them will commit to like an unlimited month at that point. I encourage people to try to come in at least 3 times a week. We're here 6 days a week, and if they can come in 6 days, I say absolutely do that, especially that first month, so you can really rev your body's energy production up, and then magic happens. I got to tell you, Kathy.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing. Would it be really good for people with like chronic illnesses? Like I have endometriosis, so it's like an inflammatory disease. So would that be good for people with endometriosis?
Absolutely. So, chronic inflammation. Inflammation is a natural body process, but when it's chronic, as you just pointed out, it's doing damage at the cellular level.
Mhm.
And again, like I said before, there's a reduction of energy production at that cell level, which is partly why that cell is becoming inflamed. There's many times free radicals from the pollutants in our environments getting into our cells, and a free radical is something that lacks an electron in the outer layer of its molecule. And what will do, it will steal that electron from one of your own cellular structures and cause that cell to start to, degenerate. And it also at the same time blocks oxygen from coming into making energy for the cell. So that red light, plus again, we're going to backtrack and optimize oxygenation of the tissue first. So we're shoving all this oxygen into our cells, is going to rev that cell back up. So the inflammation is going to be released, and that cell energy is going to be at that high level. So, and anything that's inflammatory will absolutely respond to that, because again, we're talking about the cell level. It almost doesn't matter what the disease is. It matters about what's happening in the cell.
Oh, wow. So that does make sense. So anybody, honestly, anybody can benefit from doing this. And
Yeah.
you recommend that most of us do this, even if you're healthy, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, from a proactive health standpoint, there's nothing better. If you could keep your cell energy production in your whole body optimized throughout your life, you're going to have a very different experience as you get older than, the people that don't. The chances are, especially in our modern environment, that, people are going to start to break down. Very few people die of old age anymore. They're dying of some metabolic disease, and metabolic disease starts at the cell level, not making energy properly. So, everything out there can respond very favorably to this.
Oh, wow. That's so true. It is because everybody's always sick or something with some type of sickness or chronic illness or chronic stress, something, right? And so our society totally needs this, which is great. Do you feel like it's better when you start at an earlier age and then in your lifetime to do this protocol than later in life?
Yeah, so anything that I've done along the way, the fact that I did start at 10, even with exercise and changing my nutrition at the time, I think has been very beneficial. For me personally, I think it set the foundation, physically and biochemically, to be in a better, state of growth and regeneration than I might have been, if I was still eating Captain Crunch and Wonder Bread and not exercising. I mean, when I grew up, we all played, nobody stayed inside. There was no video games. There wasn't computers, and there was not much to watch on television anyway. So we were out riding our bikes or playing sports, every day, literally. And so that probably would not have continued once I got into adulthood, because you're not going to be out there playing baseball and basketball and all that stuff with your friends, throughout your life, especially when you grow up, get married, and have kids. It's not going to be the same. So for me, exercising was the thing that continued despite me getting older, and I was able to continue to work out even though I wasn't, playing basketball on the street with my friends anymore. I still had something that was, keeping me going, and that was part of my lifestyle that, kept me getting strong, kept me, rehabbing injuries when they happened. And so I would really encourage anybody that's really looking seriously at having a what I call a proactive health style for their life is to start as young as you can and set that foundation, because your body will be so much better as you age, to be more resilient to that wear and tear. But it's not something you do for 6 weeks. It's got to be a committed thing that you make part of your life. Now, I don't know if you were going to ask me, but I wanted to point out that, look, not everybody might have an opportunity to actually do a superhuman protocol. They might not have that in their community. However, going back to what we're talking about, the origin of the superhuman, we're starting off with magnetism, the earth. If you can make a commitment to get barefoot on the earth, every day for a half hour, whether it's the grass, the sand at the beach, the dirt on the mountains, wherever it is, that's going to help polarize your body in the proper way, and it'll help you avoid or clean out the EMFs, or those electromagnetic fields that we're getting from electricity around us. Also, if you can manage to keep your room where you're sleeping for 6 or 8 hours free of any kind of electrical devices and minimize your exposure, it'll be even better, because you won't have as much damage, because being exposed to the electrical fields constantly throughout the day, if you're staying most of your days inside, is also harming us in so many ways. So getting outside and clearing those things by being barefoot on the earth every day is a really great practice. The other part of it is oxygen. So most people don't really breathe deeply. So if you practice some deep breathing while you're outside, if you're by the beach or where there's fresher air, than if you're in the city where you're breathing in so much smog, you don't want to really do that. But if that's all you got, it's still better than not. And to really get more oxygen in your tissues, and then to get sunlight, so you can actually help get that oxygen into your tissues and optimize that cell respiration or cell energy production. So that's something that if somebody can do starting at a younger age and keep that as a practice, that would also be very beneficial. So again, not everyone could do superhuman protocol, but we're using what God created here on the earth to do it with. So we can certainly do it that way.
Thanks for sharing that. I was going to ask you, I was like, what if someone doesn't have access to superhuman protocol? You read my mind.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing you say is that you could just literally do it at your home if you wanted to, just to ground yourself, at least, like barefoot, right? Barefoot outside, and take a deep breath in, or how much breath, or how
Wim
long.
Hof breathing. If Wim Hof breathing is something that's all over the internet. You can learn how to do that. What it does is it trains your body to take in much more oxygen, and it increases, just like when we're doing exercise with oxygen therapy, it increases the pressure of oxygen coming into the tissues. So you take 20 or 30 really deep breaths in and out, and then on that last breath you exhale, and you try to hold your breath as long as possible. And then after you feel like you can't do it anymore, try like another 10 or 15 seconds. And then you take a really deep inhale and try to hold that. And I've gotten up personally doing that to about 4.5 minutes. I'm holding my breath with the exhale and on the inhale. And I have a few patients that do free diving here, because we're in South Florida. They go fishing, he goes spear fishing. He could hold his breath a couple of minutes, down diving and spearing, lobsters or whatever he's spearing, and comes back up. So it's a really great way to get more oxygen into your tissue. Again, more oxygen, more energy at the cell level. That's the goal.
Wow, I love that. Thank you for teaching us about what we can do if we don't have access to that. And we can all do this. It's that easy. It's just if you want to add in time for yourself to really ground yourself and to actually have your cells regenerate, and, not have that. And I love how you said at night, like, just put your devices, in different rooms or whatever it may be. Because mine is literally right next to my
Most people are. Start lighting candles instead of turning the lights on. I mean, you could do that stuff too. You could really, if you minimize your exposure to that, electrical grid around you. It's very doable, and you just have to make a commitment to do that. You have to understand why you're doing it, of course, too, and be driven by that. But there are ways to minimize the exposure to things, and just like toxic chemicals around us. So many of our home, cleaners that we use in the home, cleansers and things in the shower and cosmetics. There's so much chemicals that are getting into us, and the more you can mitigate that toxic exposure, the better your body's going to be, because your body's got to spend so much of its resources getting rid of toxins. And again, a lot of these toxins are preventing oxygen from getting into the cell and optimizing energy production. So, all of this stuff is like what we need to do as modern people in this modern world to still have the body and health that, we were made to have. We have to do a little bit more work. The environment we live in is warring on us. We're in a war, and we have to be soldiers in that war for ourselves. We have to fortify ourselves where we're deficient. We have to remove obstacles that are hurting us, and we got to try to push ahead and be strong in our lifestyle to pursue being strong, having a strong body, mind, spirit. All of that is really a great way to go through life. I think every one of us needs to ignite the power
Yes, I
and
love it.
live
Yes.
life that way, because we need to be strong in everyday life. Whether you're a young mom holding a 10, 15, 20-pound kid around, all of a sudden you need to be an athlete for that. You need to be strong. You need to be stronger than whatever your life's going to throw at you, so you can be resilient and not be thrown off course, physically by by what happens every day.
I love that. That is so true. We do have to ignite your power. I love that impression. You always make me laugh every time you do it. I love it so much.
It happens around here a lot.
Yeah, it's so true though. I love how you mentioned that we can do so much things. And it's so wild to me that our world is supposed to make our life easier, which it does, but then really it's making us have to do more work on ourselves and like taking care of our physical body and emotion and all the right what you listed and the spiritual. And so I feel like our world is heading in that direction where we all really truly just need to focus loving, taking care of ourselves, which a lot of us don't do, until again, like something huge happens. So whoever's listening right now, go take action. You can do these things at home. And the superhuman protocol is so cool. Like it's so interesting and fascinating to me because I've been doing a lot of research for myself. I'm very nerdy in that sense where I love science. And since I have endometriosis, I had to research and do all these things. So this is how I learned about like the bean protocol, where you eat a lot of beans to get rid of like the toxins from your body in a very holistic way. So, but your protocol makes sense because you're doing it at a cellular level, which helps you, make you healthier, because how are you going to be healthy if your cells are not healthy, right? So it
I
takes,
say invest in your cells.
yeah. Oh, I love that. Invest in your cells. Oh, this is going to be a caption on this.
Isn't it time you invest in your cells?
Yes, it's so true. We need to. It's super important. And I mean, we're not taught this. We're not really taught this. Like, yes, science and bio, etc., right? They teach you about the cells, but not how it functions within our body and how it creates all these diseases and chronic illnesses, Do you have a story or a very like a very inspiring story with a client of yours or a patient of yours who like did the superhuman protocol and then had great results from it?
Yeah, I mean, I have a few. The first
Good.
one that, yeah, oh, absolutely. The first one that comes to mind is a gentleman early last year, 68-year-old male, had a stroke, somewhat of a mini stroke, but a stroke nonetheless. Half of his body was very weak. He had been a chiropractic patient of mine, so after having had the stroke and being laid up for a while in the hospital and then going home and going to rehab, he came in because his back was just hurting him, and he just wanted me to, try to get him out of some of that back pain. And so he came in. He had a cane, and this was a guy that I'd known, for a number of years. Was active. He would do like Tai Chi on the beach. He would swim, but now his physicality is kind of decimated by the stroke. And so he comes in, work on him a little bit, and it just occurred to me, that if I can get him to do the superhuman protocol, maybe that could repair some of the damage that was done by his stroke. and then the drop down effect of being sedentary for the last few months, because, being sedentary at 20 for a couple of months is a lot different than being sedentary at 68. It takes a lot more time to get back up and running when you're 68 than when you're 20. So he was like, if I will do anything to get back to normal. So he committed. Now, in the beginning, he didn't have the strength or ability to do the exercise with oxygen therapy. So every other day, because he came in 5 days a week, I would put the oxygen on him while he was on the PEMF and encouraged him to do the deep breathing, the Wim Hof breathing. So at least he would get that increase of oxygen into his body. And of course, the red light therapy he was able to do because it's passive. Within about 3 weeks, one day he was on there doing the oxygen. He said, let me get on this thing. Let me see if I could do it for a couple of minutes. And that's how it started, Kathy. He started a couple of minutes a day. And within about 2 weeks, literally that quickly, all of a sudden, he was 10 minutes on the PMF, and then he was a full exercise bout on the EWAT system. And then, obviously the red light too. So about 6 weeks from when he started, he was a whole other guy. He started going back to his swimming, his Tai Chi. The rehab that he was doing for his stroke turned into personal training. So he completely came alive and even got kind of hyper. It was a little annoying, quite honestly. He started talking because he was so energetic. And this is from a guy that, 6 weeks prior to this time period I'm talking about, was completely debilitated, depressed, moved very slowly. I held his hand walking down my hallway to get him into the treatment room from the front. And he was off and running. There was no symptoms left from what the stroke had left him with at the time. So that was very profound. And look, it's great when somebody, increases energy, improves performance, works out better. But when you can get somebody that's whole, quality of life has been changed by, a life-changing event like that, and see this protocol at work, then it's a whole new level of, satisfaction for me that I can offer something like this, to somebody. I'll share one more story. I had a gentleman that had heart failure. He's in his 60s like me. He was diagnosed with heart failure back in this past December, and he was basically sent home and put on a heart transplant list because based on how he was going, he probably wouldn't live for about 6 more, after about 6 more months. His heart was very debilitated. The famous Widowmaker artery was 100% blocked in him, and they wouldn't even do the surgery to bypass it because they didn't think he would survive it. So they put him on like 10 medications and sent him home. And this now was a guy that would get out of breath walking 10 steps. So he came to me in February of this year, and he started doing the protocol again, like the first guy, basically just staying on the PMF and breathing the oxygen and then getting into the red light. But something started to change at about the second week. All of a sudden, like when he was walking in, I noticed that he was walking better, walking more upright. And then he told me he started to ride his bike a little bit with his wife, and then he started taking walks with her. Well, within about 6 weeks' time, he was walking 5 miles a day. Wow. He was riding his bike up to 20 miles, like 3 times a week. He started swimming himself, and his measurement, here's a great number. When he left the hospital, his ejection fraction, which is the amount of blood a single beat of the heart will pump, it's a volume, and there's a normal, range from about 55 milliliters to 70 milliliters, normal range. His was 9 when he left the hospital in December. This was a guy that was not going to last very long. Yeah. And after 6 weeks with Superhuman, he retested through an echocardiogram. His EF went from 9 to 35. And now 8 months later, he's up in North Carolina. He's doing hiking in the mountains with his wife. They have a home there. He's working out. He put on about 15 pounds of muscle. He sent me a picture the other day of how big he is. And this was a guy that was, almost like ashen gray when he first came in and debilitated. But he's, again, a miracle. But when you think about what's happening with a heart attack, you're losing oxygen to the heart, you're losing oxygen to the body. Now, what's the solution to that? Pouring all oxygen back into the body, into the cell, making energy so that cell functions optimally. Simple as that.
Do you think that this protocol would be helpful for cancer patients as well then?
So, great question. And I now have somebody that's here that's fighting breast cancer the natural way. And where oxygen is, cancer can't be. Cancer can only grow in an oxygen-free environment because of the way the energy production is happening. It's happening because of sugar and glucose which doesn't require oxygen. But as soon as the oxidative process is part of the energy production process, cancer can't survive in that. So oxygen is the enemy of disease. That's like the one thing I'll put there. So she is not going radiation. She's not going chemo. She has breast cancer, and she's here doing superhuman protocol as part of other things she's doing to beat cancer naturally.
Oh my gosh, that's
I
so,
haven't seen the outcome yet, but again, in principle, there's no downside, and her oncologist was completely on board with her doing this.
I love it. You got to keep us posted on this. I'm going to ask you. I'm going to be like,
I'll,
how's
I'll,
it
I'll give you her.
going?
She's chronicling all on her Instagram. I'll share her Instagram with you so you can follow her.
Yeah, that's
Great
awesome.
gal too. So brave. Sometimes I get to see people that they have, they're being pressured by something, some loss of health, some kind of quality. Some people just crumble with that, and some people just rise above it. And it's so inspiring to me when I see somebody that's able to rise above it, because the only one that's going to really able to help us is ourselves. We have to be the one to invest in that process, and you have to be brave. It could be scary, and you just need to embrace it and have faith that you can do it. But I love that she's just willing to do this, and she always has a smile. She's not in the pity pot. She's just, she's tough, and I love that in her. It's inspiring for me personally.
Yeah, she's igniting her power. She really is. That's amazing. I love that. So, is there any lifestyle changes or practices you recommend to complement the superhuman protocol?
Yes, well, you know, people don't have a really good understanding of what chiropractic is, as an example. It's really not a treatment for musculoskeletal disease.
Mm.
It's really a way of removing obstacles in the body, by getting circulation and neurological functioning back to normal. So the whole system, the whole machine of the body can work better. And, our lifestyles can create obstacles, congestion and muscle spasm and tension in the joints that cause a reduction in blood flow, cause a reduction in nerve flow. So chiropractic itself, if you go into somebody that's good and really understands how the body works, can really help keep those channels open. So at least your body's got all of the needs being met and not being shut down or having things blocked to allow the body to heal itself. Nothing can heal the body like the body can heal itself. So that's really one thing to do, and not think of it in terms of low back pain, but as a maintenance thing. I personally get adjusted every week. I have a colleague who's a chiropractor a few towns away, and he and I adjust each other every week. We keep that as part of our arsenal for our proactive healthcare. Exercise, absolutely. Finding a way to find where in your life you need to do it. I personally love to do it first thing in the morning because it sets the tone of my day. My energy's high. I'm on my feet for solid 12 hours. I'm moving. Fortunately, I don't have to sit much during my day. So anybody that really wants to start revving up their wellness is to start exercising first thing in the morning. Whatever it is, if it's yoga, if it's Pilates, if it's going to the gym, if it's bike ride, whatever it is, find what you love and start adding it in there, and get outside more. 90% of the time people are spending times indoors these days. You need to be spending 90% of the time outside as best as possible. So getting back to that natural resurgence of energy that our environments, our natural environments give us. So that's definitely something you want to start figuring out a way to do. And again, like I said, try to minimize your exposures in the house to some of the electrical things that you have. Try to start looking at alternatives for the soap that you use, the underarm deodorants, the cleansers, the dishwashing stuff, all of that, because the more you can mitigate, those toxic loads, it's going to help you a lot in the long run, because so many people are sick as they go along, and they're going to a medical community that has no idea where that's coming from. And it's all these things that are interfering with our cell function. They're looking at pathology. They're just looking at these, big, diseases, and they have no idea how to just get back to the basis of how do we get this body to start working optimally to fight all its battles the best it can.
Yeah, this literally gets right to the core problem. And how is this not talked about more? So thank you for being here and sharing this. I love it so much. And I love how, you're so passionate about this. And now you're getting me passionate about it. Now I'm going to go like Google places near me that does superhuman protocol.
So if you look up superhuman protocol, you'll find the Da Vinci medical website, and they have a location finder. So you might actually have a place close by you. Make sure it's a certified location. But anything that you can do to start helping this. There's even grounding mats out there you can get for yourself pretty inexpensively. You can put them on your beds. They plug into the wall, which, our electrical grid is grounded to the earth in our homes. We have to ground it. And these grounding mats plug in, so you can actually have this, very inexpensive it's not a pulse electromagnet field, it's a grounding mat. It'll help drain those EMFs out of you and help get that earth's pulse, into your body to help that. That's probably one of the easiest things you can do in the fight against the EMFs in the house.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because I'm gonna go get one, seriously, because I'm gonna try to like make everything possible to make it a better, healthier environment for just me, as because I have endometriosis, and my daughter, and obviously my husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to be healthier and not grow old and have a lot of health issues. I want to be like you, healthy, happy, right?
Ignite the power.
Yes. Look at that. Look at the muscles. Like at 63. Come on. Whoa. I
Yeah.
want to be, or I want to be as healthy as you are. So thank you for being
You
an
can be healthier than me, Kathy. I just know it.
Really? You do?
Mhm. I do. You
Oh,
just
thank
have to be dedicated. One last thing I'm going to just throw in here quick. Cold plunge is definitely something that I recommend. Infrared sauna and cold plunge. I'm a cold plunge person. Sitting in sub-zero, not sub-zero, but in very cold water or whole body cryotherapy stimulates a lot of great physiological processes that are adapted in our body. It's very regenerative, and it helps to even convert a lot of the fats that we might be in our bodies stored as white fat into what's called brown fat. Brown fat is something that all mammals have. We don't really have a lot of it because we live in controlled environments. But you look at like bears and some of the animals that have to hibernate in the winter, they have large supplies of brown fat, because brown fat actually yields more energy for the body compared to white fat. White fat's really not desirable for us, especially when it's around our organs. But cold plunging gives that body a mechanism that changes that white fat into brown fat as one of the things it does. But it boosts immunity, it gets rid of inflammation globally in the body, it boosts brain health, growth hormone, testosterone. And it's a really great discipline and great place to do that deep breathing, because when you're sitting in 40 or 50 45-degree water, which is what I do almost every day, I'm deep breathing for that whole 6 or 7 minutes that I'm in there. And I got to tell you, when I come out of there, I am just stellar, just unbelievable.
Wow. Okay. I've been thinking about doing cold plunging because it's so popular right now. And
Mhm.
and I was like, okay, but now it makes sense because the deep breathing and what you just explained. Thank you for sharing that. So
Absolutely.
anybody who's interested in cold plunging too, go for it. Try it. I haven't tried it yet. I actually hate the cold, to be honest. So
Listen, I'm in South Florida. You know how many people say that, but it's not the cold, it's the effect that it gives you. So you have to just have the discipline to get in it. And just that discipline alone is really, it's really great for building, not only the physiological, but even the character. Sit there in that cold water for 5 or 6 minutes and just be able to endure it. It does toughen you up, I got to tell you, because I've seen people that really hated the cold, but once they got bit by that bullet and, bug, I should say, and felt that high that they get when they come out of that, unbelievable. I got this one patient, she's 5 foot nothing, probably 100 pounds, and she goes into 40-degree water for like 7 minutes. She's an animal. I mean, she's this tiny little thing, and she's just in there, but it's her mental fortitude that does that. It's definitely not her physicality, it's her mental fortitude, but she loves it. She's addicted to it. She walks around South Florida with a down vest on because once you go out, it takes you a little time for your body to warm itself again. But it's so awesome, and she's another inspiration to me, because I was doing it at 50 degrees. She's like, 50 degrees. She's like, you got to do 45. You got to do 40. So
love it.
I started finding another place that had a lower temperature. So I was glad. She, again, she inspires me to try to push myself further.
That's great. And now you're inspiring all of us to do better and to push us out of our comfort zone and to really, really take care of our health, which I love so much. Thank you for today's conversation. So, where can listeners learn more about the superhuman protocol and more about you and your practice?
Yeah, so our Instagram channel is Boca Raton Chiropractor. Our website is physicalevidencechiropractic.com. And we're on Facebook, also facebook.com/. Physical Evidence Chiropractic. Those are, the main places. We're on TikTok at Boca Raton Chiropractor as well. But I encourage anybody that might be interested in just having a conversation. It doesn't cost anything. And I could share some more about the protocol, but even some of the micronutrient testing that we do and ways so you can customize supplementation based on your body's particular deficiencies and how your body can or can't process certain nutrients. Because many of us have these issues because of gene mutations that we've inherited from parents that might affect the way we can process nutrients. And again, if we can't get nutrients in our cells to make the things we need to make and have the energy production of our cells, we can't function optimally. We need both. So that's another thing that we could have a whole conversation about if you'd like to sometime. But I'd be happy to talk to anyone that's interested if they wanted to reach out.
Oh, amazing. I'll put all of that under the show notes too, like your links, etc. And last but not least, is there any final advice or message you'd like to leave with my listeners today?
Absolutely. Ignite your power. Do it. Do it now.
Love it. Oh my gosh, you're such a joy and amazingness and such a light to this world. Thank you for this. Thank you so much. And anybody listening, seriously, go check out Dr. Lipman's info, or if you want to talk to him, he's so amazing. Look at him. You're just so funny too at the same time. So I love it. Thank you.
That's the New Yorker in me.
Oh, gotcha. I love New York. I love New Yorkers. I love how raw and real you guys are. I'm very direct, so I love that. So
thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's great to be real, and we're a little bit sarcastic in our humor. Sometimes it takes people that are more literal to get over that. Not everybody in the country understands that Northeast sarcasm, but it's a thing.
I love it. So thank you so much for today.
Thank you, Kathy. Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed being with you today.